Hello and welcome to another episode of Ashley Haden's Political Breakdown, a show that says, yes, everyone is a cunt, but who is the biggest? My guests this week are...
I'm Dan Cadey.
And...
Chaminda Jayanetti.
Fantastic. Right, let's start with Nato, shall we? Shall we have some fun with Nato? It was a big week for Nato. Trump was a fucking pissant and walked off, didn't he, halfway through? Because it turns out all of the leaders were mocking him. Well, a couple of leaders.
Yeah, we now know what happens when the in-betweeners grow up.
Yeah. Now, the question is, and this is the thing, like, Trump was asked about this. Did journalists need to fucking bring this up at any point? Just going, everyone thinks you're a cunt, mate.
Well, of course. They're not exact. I mean, what else are they going to talk? Are they going to literally talk about the detailed negotiations taking place at a NATO summit? Nobody cares one iota about NATO. I mean, apart from the defence community, whatever that might be, who in the public, who is, sort of sat at home thinking, I wonder how the North Atlantic Treaty Organisation is progressing these days? I mean, this is an important thing, apparently, so they need to make some kind of news story out of it, but they know fundamentally, when they are making this news story, that 80% of the people watching do not care. They may well like the fact that we are in NATO and they think it should continue, but like the European Union until 20-something, they don't really care about it. Let's do the gossip.
Before we continue, try to keep the mic as close to your mouth when you talk, otherwise the sound's going to be fucking useless.
That's good news for the audience.
Yes. So, I mean, like...
But it's accessible stuff. This is that exactly what you say. It's the stuff that people are, like, even the likes of me are going to go, oh, well, at least this is something I can get on board with. They're all having a little bit of a chit-chat. It's stuff for us in
it's
the
gossip.
Twitter generation where you just...
it's complete gossip.
But, everyone just gossips around. And he's taken it, as his typical thin-skinned self and naffed off. All he was over here doing was sort of, just sort of having press conferences saying about how he was going to be great, and then he was going to have another press conference, and they're boning about the fact that, he's just come from a press conference, he's late, and then he fucks off. It's just in a week of puffed up nothing, it's just another bit of nothing. But I'm sure this is all going to be great.
I mean,
it's just all just so much fluff.
I've got to say, bear in mind that a lot of the speculation ahead of this NATO summit about what would happen had nothing to do with NATO. It was about Trump and Brexit and Boris and the NHS was what people were wondering. Is this going to come up? Nothing to do with NATO at all. I mean, what was the thing that they were going to talk about? I'm not saying that it doesn't matter, and maybe this is a failing of media coverage, not to actually get into the substance of what is being discussed and to go into that. But defence, NATO is something that people generally defence. We want it to be there. We don't necessarily want to engage with the minutiae of it because it's something for other people to take care of.
Well, I mean, we've never actually had a journalist on this. Actually, we had Busnahan's a journalist, so we actually had him, but we never spoke about it. Is journalism fucked?
In the confidence that none of my editors or potential editors are watching this, yes, more or less.
Oh, trust me, no one's watching this. You're absolutely fine. You can do whatever you like. It is not going to
Let's just libel the free world when we can. No, I think political journalism is in all kinds of problems. Political journalism, it's very, very focused on... I'm going to sound a bit of a hypocrite having, given the conversation we've just had about NATO, but... It's very focused on gossip. It's very focused on, the horse race, as it's called, and, who's up and who's down. It's very focused on Westminster. When people talk about London bias and London centrism, actually a lot of what they're talking about is Westminster. And you've got, the Westminster lobby, which is basically this sort of club virtually of political reporters based more or less in the Houses of Parliament and focused very much on... the kind of, rivalries and intrigue going on there, which is very, very interesting to people who are interested in politics, but of very little interest to anyone else.
Well, could you see it with Parliament all the time anyway, that if it's like a big thing, then all the MPs are there. If they think that the people are going to pretend to give a fuck about this, then they're all going to be there sitting in Parliament. But then you watch when someone is talking about a more local issue, you'll see all the MPs fuck off apart from like 6. They're going, well, this is still important. This is what the entire country claims that they care about. What's happening in front of them, the potholes and all of this shit.
But so much now is all about portrayal of image and how messages all land and how to get something across which with little or no actual content whatsoever. So when you talk about like political journalism, I suppose as well, that you've got anything sort of like investigative or sort of like churning actually anything up, then that can be strong, that can be powerful. But by and large, talking to MPs, talking to politicians, all you're getting really is just very superficial sound points that aren't really doing anything for anyone. It's just making sure that you get that out there. And so where are you going to get people clicking through to read what you're writing, what you're doing? Like, I mean, that can only be just from keep feeding that stuff out, and then we've always become victims of like that perpetuating. So you go back to like Blair was like one of the first ones where that was just sort of like showing it was all about more like the image and how is this going to land. And so looking at people now, even whether it's Corbyn, whether it's Trump, whether it's Johnson, they're all following that same idea about the image, even if we might not agree with their points.
It's all gloss.
Yeah, it's just exaggerated characters.
One thing I do want to just mention in terms of what you were talking about MPs all fucking off at the moment, that something local or something non-headline grabber comes up. I mean, it's MPs have very, very busy schedules. They do not spend. I mean, most of their work does not take place on the green benches of the House of Commons, the chamber of the House of Commons. So it might be select committees, an awful lot will be constituency work and this sort of thing. A lot of what goes on in the actual chamber of the House of Commons isn't of any binding or lasting significance. So you have the votes that take place. Prime Minister's questions is basically theatre. You'd have questions to the ministers or whatever. But, things like early day motions, for example, don't actually do anything. So for a lot of MPs, it will make more sense for them to be at a select committee meeting or maybe a campaign meeting or dealing with constituents or whatever it is than to be sat there, falling half asleep whilst the member for, bumfuck nowhere, introduces an early day motion about the counter-revolution in Nicaragua.
Bumfuck nowhere actually voting for Brexit this time around.
Bumfuck nowhere has been holding its own Brexit referendums every year since about 1874.
But with regards to like select committees and everything else, because I think one of the problems that we face is this is the worst election I've ever seen in this country in terms of absolute bullfuckery that's going along. Like
2015 was worse, actually.
You think that 2015 was
2015,
worse than this?
I honestly think 2015 was even worse than this.
I can't. I mean, the amount of investigations the police are doing with regards to all the fucking major political parties. Going, but like, what you've got Boris Johnson is under investigation for the Jennifer stuff. Tories are under investigation for potentially bribing Brexit Party candidates.
Oh, yeah.
You also got...
There's a lot of stuff to be released as well, like the Russian stuff.
Exactly.
That makes for good... That's quite good, though, because that's going to be a nice lot of Christmas reading as well. There's a lot of stuff that's got to be released just after the election.
When
the EHRC inquiry into anti-Semitism in Labour, that's coming out in February.
And waiting to see whether they're going to look into the Tory party... Islamophobia as well. And I mean, maybe if they want to, they can have a look into the Tory party Islamophobia and their anti-Semitism. Because there's anti-Semitism in the Tory party as well, and racism and all. This is the thing. I made this point on Twitter yesterday. Everyone goes on with don't vote for Corbyn. I'm not voting for the Labour this time, but I'm in a safe seat. It doesn't fucking matter. I've got no moral.
Same.
I've got no moral questioning of what to do at this point. Everyone's going, oh well, why don't you just don't vote for Corbyn because they're anti-Semitic? They're going, yeah, you're right. Don't just do the anti-Semitic party. Get all of your hate into one party for one easy monthly hatred. Because that's all you're doing at that point. You're adding all the hate you can possibly want into one party. there's an argument there that if you're voting for...
I'm not sure I follow.
No, I lost something about to say. So where are we investing our hate?
I mean, that's the Tory party are like the all-in-one debt collection for hate. Okay. Instead of having your hate spread about, why don't you have all of your hate into one monthly
There's one for each.
party?
Okay.
That's what you're doing it there.
Consolidated hatred.
That's it. That's all you're doing. You're consolidating your hate into the Tory party. So every time that someone goes along, and I mean, anti-Semitism, awful. Islamophobia, awful. It's all fucking terrible. It's all shit. But we are there going, what cancer do we want? Because there's no right answer. There's no moral win here.
No.
Unless we can somehow get the Greens in. But what's the fucking point in that? Imagine the Greens getting into power. Imagine...
What would happen to my Big Mac?
Oh, what would happen just on day one? Because they would be so shocked that they got in. They go, really? Us? I mean, no, I don't know what to do.
Well, they've been in power before. They were in power in Brighton Council a few years ago, and it did not go well.
Oh no! Didn't they at one point in
they had
Brighton,
the bins piling up because the bin men went on strike?
Yeah, and it's there going, mate. This is like your only thing, and you love recycling. You fucked it up. How are you?
You had one job.
That's like letting the fucking EDL in and then immigration rising. They're going, how did you fuck this up, mate? This is your only thing. Like, come on.
Yeah. They can't have been just using it as a pitch. What?
Actually, no. I really like immigration.
I mean, it's going to really come good. It's going to come good at some point.
Right. So, have you seen what other news stories have we seen this week? Anything of interest? Anything of fun? I hope so, because
we've got a lot of time to do that. Yeah. I'll be honest. There was the debate last night, which I was going to watch, and then I was going to watch it at someone else's, and I got lost on the way, turned up half an hour late, and then we talked through the whole thing, or what was left, which was probably the best way I could possibly experience it.
Do not watch any fucking debate. I can't stand it. If I wanted to be lied to by some fucking cunts, I would go to the pub.
That's what I
we are in the pub, to be fair.
Yes.
Yeah, in a nice empty attic of a pub.
The best fucking part of a pub, mate.
The quiet on a Saturday afternoon. But everyone keeps it's the same with the Andrew Neil thing. The same as the debates where people keep going, holding them to scrutiny, But they're just saying the same thing. It's not really holding someone to scrutiny if they're going to ignore what the question was, then just say get it done, just get it done. So it's not really scrutiny. And they say what we count in the questions you didn't answer, but then that doesn't really make a great point with a lot of the electorate.
I think for Boris Johnson, get Brexit done is like him saying I love you.
Get done.
You know, it is empty words normally towards children.
Both scare me when you say it into my eyes. You know.
It's the effect I have on people, Cadey, you know. That's it. I'm just such a charming, awful human being, like Boris Johnson.
Yeah. Get it done, I love you.
Like Boris Johnson without sex life.
I mean, hang on. I mean, you're a new guest on here. You're insulting my lack of a sex. And I may very
quickly become an old guest.
How very dare you? How very dare you? I knew we shouldn't have had fucking journalists on.
Didn't just read your tweets, he read your replies as well. I think that's what it is.
I hacked into your DMs.
Yeah, got that. Got a three-dimensional picture.
So no one ended up watching the debate. So
I just couldn't.
I mean, apparently it went into more detail than the ITV one, but to be honest, you know, as I say, Boris Johnson was asked about Islamophobia and turned it into get Brexit done.
Yes,
and it was like, and he wasn't really pulled up on this. His argument was basically that yes, there's a lot of anger. And that's because there's been a lot of foot dragging on Brexit. I'm just thinking, you're literally saying that the reason why your MPs are racist, the reason why you are racist, the reason why your party is racist is because you got bored waiting for the thing that you were waiting to deliver for 40 years already.
Yes.
And it's like, no one pulls him up on this? But that's the way this works, is that there's no real challenge or anything.
This is it, and this may be a difficult... no, I don't want to go back into the anti-Semitism. We won't do that. because we'll move on past this. But with regards to... Actually, no, while we're here... I'm
wondering where this is going to go here.
There's an argument.
The British media... how many Muslims to a Jew... And what I'm asking at that point
Sorry,
is...
what?
Because what I'm asking at this point is...
Where are we going here?
Let me... Let me...
in the British media.
No, not
just
work.
take
No.
How glad are we that nobody is watching this?
No. Let me finish what I'm saying, because it's the Islamophobia is this election has been almost completely ignored, whereas anti-Semitism is everywhere on the front page of everything else. So how much?
Well, the liberal media is covering Islamophobia a lot.
Yes, but there just isn't as.
It's not really cutting through the BBC.
Yes, and it's not as loud.
No.
So how much Islamophobia has to happen before it gets onto the same level as the anti-Semitism, where we actually hold people to account? Because you had Philip Schofield going after Corbyn, going, apologise, mate, why don't you just apologise? And then you had Boris Johnson on there, and they fucking gave him a selfie, a fucking hand job, and said, well done to you.
Well, I think I can't really comment on hand jobs or lack thereof, but I think with the thing is that, first of all, there's a lot, Labour has traditionally had a substantial level of support amongst the Jewish community going back decades. Yeah. And so there is a decent level of established organisation amongst Jewish members of the Labour Party, the Jewish Labour movement.
Yes.
And so obviously within the party you have a lot of these people then who have been very concerned about the move, the direction it's gone in, and so they have made themselves heard, as they're entirely right to do.
Oh no, certainly. I mean,
because
70,
but you don't necessarily have the same level of, say, Muslim membership and voting within the Conservative Party. The Conservatives, yes, they've got the odd high-profile member like Sajid Javid or Saeed Abbasi. Saeed Abbasi's been making a lot of noise.
Oh, she's been doing it for years.
Exactly. But you don't actually have a lot of organisation. You don't have a large membership there that's organised. And so, Mohammed Amin is a man who was a senior Muslim member of the Conservative Party. He resigned. But there's not that same sort of, we need to hold the Conservatives to account. So I think that's one part of it, I think. The other part of it is the simple fact that when you're... First of all, Islamophobia, anti-Muslim racism is, I think, much more prevalent in society as a whole than anti-Semitism. Secondly, I'll say this as someone who, I think if you look at what I've written about this issue before, I certainly do not and have never downplayed the situation with anti-Semitism in Labour. But I think in society there's more anti-Muslim racism than anti-Semitism. I think in the Conservative Party there's a lot of latent anti-Muslim viewpoints. And in the media there's a lot more anti-Muslim viewpoints than is anti-Semitism, in my view. And so all of the kind of anti-Muslim tropes, the Islamophobic tropes that you see in the Conservative Party or in the Conservative media, it just doesn't get called out, because actually a lot of the people whose job it is to call this out actually kind of agree with it, or they're used to hearing from it, or, as is often the case in the political media class, they go to the same dinner parties as the people who come out with this sort of thing, or they're on the same panel discussions as the people who come out with this sort of thing. Douglas Murray is an accepted part of this.
I don't know how that
political circles. Yeah, Douglas Murray is absolutely nuts. And and I would probably say a lot more if he wasn't one of the most litigious men on the planet.
He's a cunt.
He's a cunt. Douglas Murray, you are a cunt.
And I can scientifically prove it.
And I can afford to defend myself against your libel case, so, suck my gasolina.
But the amount of fucking
I don't know the man, but
I would get
what
if he
started.
But I'd be happy to meet him and then make a judgment. I feel like if I just fall into the same tropes, then I'm as bad as some other people.
Douglas Murray's argument is essentially that, that there's too much Muslim immigration into Europe, and that's threatening European culture and European values. And these kind of views, to one extent or another, are much more widely held within the political media spheres than, say, the kind of anti-Semitic viewpoints that you'll find in the Labour Party, which is that everything is a grand Zionist plot. Which you tend to find more on the hard left, but not in the sort of media political establishment.
I mean, especially like it has to be pointed out. Like this week, there was 70 sworn statements sent to the it's the
HRC, yeah. Equality and Human Rights
by the
Jewish
Labour movement, and they were fucking dreadful.
Yes.
The Labour Party have such a fucking issue with anti-Semitism. It is ridiculous. And listening to the likes of Corbyn go, oh no, we've been very strong on all of this. They go, well, you haven't. No. And that's the fucking issue with it. Also, I mean, one of the things I think with anti-Semitism and that doesn't happen with the same as with Islamophobia is anti-Semitism is really, really easy. It's incredibly easy. They're going, who's to blame? The Jews. It's a syllable. Easy. Piddle of piss. They're going, so why are we hearing more about this? Oh, well, the Jews. Like, it's so easy to do this. It's like
I'm not sure anti-Muslim racism has generally proved itself to be a difficult thing.
No,
to
I think comparatively, and of course I'm doing this for comic effect, and it is not working.
I feel a lot more relief knowing that you are, though. So I was like, oh, bloody hell, is this one of his theories?
This is truly a political breakdown.
Coming off the back of all that, I'm like, oh, wow, this is... I don't know. I'm not on board.
I mean, in terms of conspiracy theories...
I think the argument seems to be that Jew has half the syllables of Muslim.
Exactly. Right. In terms of conspiracy, because that is where all conspiracies
The Zoroastrians are getting away lightly because no one can say that word.
I worry that this is not going to make me look good. Although, I think the point
Carry on, come on, come on.
We
won't know until...
Oh, see, I could always try to rescue it. I won't. We'll move on. We'll cut it there and then have some... and
whose fault is it that it didn't work?
The audience can make up their minds.
I mean, I do want to make
Neil's favourite thing.
I want to make a serious point about where I think the anti-Semitism on the left comes from and how it develops, because I know the left pretty well. And there's different things going on. First of all, I mean, a lot of this is wrapped up in Palestine activism. Now, there's a couple of things going on. First of all, Palestine. If you take white Western Palestine activists, you'll get white Western activists in this country and other countries who are active on different sort of foreign policy issues, be it, Uyghurs in China or Tibet or, Darfur in Sudan back in the day when that was a live issue, Zimbabwe, whichever one And those people are, it's what they do, it's what they campaign on. But with Palestine activism, what I've tended to find is that it's much more all-encompassing. It's almost a way of life.
Yeah.
You find Palestine activists who their social life almost revolves around Palestine activism and social gatherings around Palestine campaigning. Some of these people I suspect probably don't, who probably can go a whole month where they don't have a day in which they don't see a Palestine flag. I say this from something close to personal experience. I mean, I was never a Palestine campaigner, but I knew, I was in those circles, if you like. And it is incredibly all-encompassing. And I think when you are, putting to one side the actual, substance of the Israel-Palestine issue for one moment, I think when you are in that kind of environment, and that is your world, then, you do end up, I think, with a kind of narrowness of spectrum. And it's very easy, I think, to sort of start falling into this worldview where everything is about the Zionists, which is a word that is used every 5 seconds in these circles, and that the Zionists have all this power, and obviously that very, very, that becomes almost interchangeable after a while with things that are not simply Zionists.
Yes.
So I think that's one thing. And also I think we have to remember, reality can have a radicalizing effect. You don't just have to, people don't, well, maybe in the YouTube era, this does. People do start off by watching Breitbart or Fox News or whatever. But back, until quite recently, there was a kind of, you'd read a report about something that was entirely accurate, entirely mainstream. You want to find out more about that. So you'll have a look around for more information, and you'll find a more dedicated site which will be more overt in what it's describing and how it's describing things. It won't seek balance necessarily. It won't sort of bite its tongue. It may be more accurate about what's actually going on. But you start looking more and more, and you're getting into more and more sort of hard-line information sources.
Then you come to more opinion mixed in with the...
But you don't know what's opinion.
Exactly,
and so you end up, and this is you see this happening on the far right as well, is that, if you start with, say, with the far right, you start like, there's an Islamic extremist bomb plot or something. Who are these guys? I want to know more.
Yes.
And there's not many degrees that you have to go past before you are into La La Land, but you don't know it. And so that's where this sort of radicalization... you can just end up reading columnists in the Daily Mail, and that is going to turn you into... that could turn you into a kind of far-right racist, quite frankly.
That's part of the radicalization that... I don't think is looked at as enough, especially with regards to white nationalism, because I think that it's so easy for that hate to seep in. Because how much is the Daily Mail now? Like 70p, something like that?
You're the one who buys it, apparently, so you tell us.
Hang on a minute, no. I mean, how dare you? I don't buy any paper. Fucking... I'll
sit in Starbucks and read it for free.
I'll let all the fuckers die, mate.
Lovely to have a journalist on.
I'm a glorified unemployed journalist.
But with regards, you get radicalised with, as you say, with the likes of Daily Mail. You have Mylene Phillips. Sometimes you'll have Rod Liddell on there and stuff like that. You're reading this, you will get radicalised, and that's going to cost you 70p to get that, and then get annoyed by whoever's fucking serving you. This is where you're going. You get hate straight away. It's so much easier than if you are going to be radicalised on, become...
You're not going to become... I don't think you're going to become a violent extremist on the basis of anything that's in national newspapers.
No, not at all.
But there can be a gateway effect. Certainly once you're into your Breitbart territory, your Fox News territory, and then you can end up in the absolute outright neo-Nazi sources.
But it's fear. That's what it does.
In the sort of stuff that we're talking about, like in Conservative Party and the Labour Party as well, though, is same as what you're saying, where you start with one source and then you go bit by bit, and because it's still got those anchors of fact in there, but then it's so much opinion shit around it as well, and
there's no context and there's no balance.
People then have with those opinions, and they might not become violent. In some ways, but they do then become very violent opinions. That's what we've seen throughout, all the opinions around, whether it's around Europe. That's what all the stuff we talk about in both parties are as well. Now, if we look at the leader that we've got, not violent opinions, but saying things about people because looking like letterboxes and things like this. Sort of these things where then they may well be opinion that have come from and have been very loosely wandering around some fact. But then have created a hell of a ridiculous issue and opinion out of it, which then someone's reading along with that is then their opinion they can take down the pub.
It's once you make it acceptable, then it starts to grow. But I mean, I've found there's the old comedy.
Was very bad for that as well.
I mean,
joking in one circle, but then not thinking that in another circle this is going to be taken as fact.
No, with regards to that idea, because you always push the boundaries when you're with friends. Always do. You always say stuff that you wouldn't necessarily say in the thing. Doesn't mean you mean it or anything like that. We're coming more further and further with regards to a society where soon I do feel we're going to get to a point where you can't even joke with friends with regards to anything that may be construed in a society if you said it out on Twitter or something like that.
Yeah.
Do you think that is that will be a good thing, or do you think that is?
Is this a grab 'em by the pussy argument you're making?
Well, no.
That was just two guys talking
that's about him talking about sexually assaulting someone.
Yeah, and that's related to actual behaviour.
Yes, that's the thing. Whereas, you can always do like a dead baby joke around friends and stuff like that. But
you can always do one of those.
I'm not necessarily going to open with it tonight. I mean, I do have dead baby stuff, but that is
it's in your locker.
Well, yeah, but it's
locker talk.
It's never an opener. This is the thing. You
need the gateway jokes first.
Yeah, you have to let people know you're funny.
The dead toddler jokes. You need to get warm them up with some dead toddler jokes, and then go in with the dead baby jokes.
My dead toddler joke is fantastic. But I mean, you know what I'm talking about.
I'm beginning to realise I'm not going to be able to tweet out the link to this, am I?
I'll be honest. I only got you on so you would do.
I figured that was probably part of the reason. Yeah, as like now we're on to dead baby turf. I'm like,
we'll do half hour on Nato, then we'll turn it round to...
They'll be bored. They'll bore them with Nato, yeah.
They won't watch it to the end, it's fine.
You are right, though, about, it is weird, the context. It is that thing about if you were joking around with someone in the pub, but then if it's... You start joking around with other people, and then, they haven't got that same cash app knowledge, it becomes all very...
Well, can you do jokes like that? Because I think you can. You can do jokes like that without you being that person.
Yes.
Because it's just a joke, and especially with around friends and everything else. Go as dark.
I mean, it can be
like.
a tell. It can sometimes tell you something about that person. Yeah. So with someone like Jim Davidson or someone like Bernard Manning, then actually that's telling you about that person's views. And there's a complete third party you don't necessarily know unless you know the person well enough to make a judgment about what they're really like. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, you can certainly make jokes. I mean, I don't know, as a third person who's just met you, I don't know if you actually go around killing babies, but I'm going to kind of assume that you don't.
I mean, I don't go around killing babies.
Manslaughter maybe, but not murder.
Oh, no, I like a challenge. If I'm going to kill, I like to sweat,
What are you killing? Hyenas? Antelopes? Tigers?
Yeah. All the above.
Man-handling.
But it has to be a hand. I'm not some fucking dental hygienist, with a gun killing a lion because it's got a name. That is a fucking old reference. That is an old reference. Cecil the lion, come back.
Who's Cecil the lion?
Do you not remember the lion that got killed a few years
one of these trophy hunt things.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't really
Cecil the lion. That was this lion's name.
I wonder if he knew. But I think that the thing you've got to bear in mind is that I think the kind of cancel culture, call-out culture that you find in politics Twitter has limited resonance and replication in society at large.
Well, yes.
I think society at large is more forgiving and less politically correct, frankly, than call-out culture on Twitter. A lot different to that, actually. So I think, up and down, we can talk about, what fuss is going on in that tiny little corner of Twitter that is politics Twitter or whatever. But actually, meanwhile, up and down the country, people are saying whatever the hell they like. Now, sometimes they mean that, sometimes they don't.
Well, this is the thing with comedy, the people who say you can't say anything anymore.
They do, by the way. People are always saying this stuff all the time.
Constantly. I've done 4 shows up in Edinburgh. 3 of them were the Cunting Trilogy. And the final one, the one I did
I've got to salute the subtlety.
I mean, it's what I'm known for. This year's one was Fuck You and Fuck Your Beliefs. And I'm not known for my gentle comedy. And I say some fucking... Honestly, it's sometimes some stuff that you wouldn't say in polite company. But at no point has anyone ever fucking told me I can't say it, can't do anything. I mean, I've gigged up and down the fucking country, and never once have I been dragged off the stage. I mean, people, I've
Is that because you keep doing gigs at EDL branches?
No, hang on a minute. I want this put down now. Every member of the EDL can all get together, suck each other off, and then jump off something high. I'm not a racist, and I wish I never
That's
said
his next
that.
Edinburgh show.
Yeah. I'm not a racist, but that's going to be the next Edinburgh show. Actually, no. Next year is going to be called I could save the world if only you cunts just listened.
Going back to that, no one's ever dragged you off, but how many times have they put you back on?
Once.
Just once. Just once they put you back on. Repeat gigs.
Oh, that. Oh, I thought you were talking about.
No. Stick by your answer. I thought it was quite a clear question. I'll put you under scrutiny.
Oh no,
I
thought you were talking about an encore.
Okay, that's almost nice.
With regard, never. I've never been asked back.
Not even once.
No, never. No one asked me back. So. I mean, I'm gigging in Hoxton tonight. I look forward to not doing that gig on a Saturday again. Fun.
Well, you'd have to put up with Hoxton again. Good riddance.
I live in Stepney Green. You know, it's a gentle walk. If you've got a gig somewhere, gig where you can walk to and from it.
Or run from it if they're chasing you away.
Mate, no one's going to fucking run in Hoxton. They've all got their bikes.
Oh, yeah, that's true. The fixie bikes.
And then you just push them over because they're all fucking penny farthings. Absolutely fine. Fuck them.
You would get round to the pertinent stuff. How are you going to get to your...
Let's just start ranting about cyclists and hipsters it's 2007.
No, there's an interesting story this week on comedy. Pete Davidson. Where is it?
Pete Davidson?
Yeah. You know the fucking SNL guy.
No, I don't watch that laughter-free American crap.
He was going out with a singer called Ariana Grande. And
a singer called Ariana Grande, just in case we didn't know who Ariana Grande was, without the introduction.
I'll be honest, I'm not sure. And Kate Beckinsale.
Yeah.
But what he's doing now is he's doing a tour, America, and he's making fans sign a $1 million NDA to see a stand-up.
Good Christ. What? Where was he from originally? What, sorry? What? I missed the beginning of it.
SNL, Saturday Night Live.
Right, okay. I'm so used to you talking about political parties. I was just like... For the SNL.
The Socialist National Party.
And I also thought you meant Peter Davidson, like the Doctor Who as well. So I was thrown by an awful lot of that. And then you started speaking about the Grande singer. And
SNL is the Social National Liberal Party. It's got like all the bases covered.
Alec Baldwin sort of does all the proper... Yeah, good. Okay. And what? An NDA?
NDA, you see the stand-up, so you can't talk about it, you can't do opinions on it, you can't critique it, you can't fucking tweet about it or anything else. $1 million.
I'm up with the not sort of like having phones locked up and all that. I think that's great, but is that even a good selling point? Like, you can't... So what? You can have a few reviewers in to do a little bit of, but they can't really mention anything about
you'll
the show.
lose $1 million.
Well, I certainly know one thing. If I ever decide I want to organise a terrorist plot, I know how to go about it without being detected.
Mate. NDAs. It's the thing. I mean, what do you think? NDAs are a useful thing in society because they have been used by both companies and celebrities as a way of hiding the fact that they're dreadful.
Yeah, sexual harassment and this sort of thing, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there was one a couple of months ago or weeks ago. I mean, time is fucking fleeting at this moment. But there was a company universities, that's the fucking thing. Universities use NDAs to stop...
protect professors who've been harassing students a third of their age, yeah.
Exactly. So...
Good God.
Yeah, so
he's heading off into academia now.
Yeah.
Third of my age? No. I'll wait a little.
Let's move this one on.
No, that'd be secondary.
What would you talk about? I haven't
the
seen
singer
Peppa
called
Pig.
Ariana Grande.
I don't know.
She's doing great things.
Should we get to a point where NDAs are not as used or not allowed to be as used as freely as they are at the moment?
How do you go get them? How would you get that? Yeah, sorry, I'm really starting from the very beginning of this. I haven't even got around to who Ariana Grande is.
That's fine. I'll check to it.
But how do you go about grabbing one then? Like, you got to sell that in early.
NDA or pussy?
NDA. What? Come on, Ashley. Jesus Christ. Well, the whole audience has just left.
He's not the audience. He's
do you
a
reckon
fucking
he'll
tech
be
guy.
back?
He's a fucking. It's Pete the tech man.
But how is there no, like, can you just get it for anything then? Like, so a comedian's like, oh, yeah, I want to...
Well, it's a private
gigs,
contract. Essentially,
like,
it's a privite contractual agreement, virtually.
Right, okay, so you get it from a, like, what, solicitor? You just like, oh, yeah, I want to do
You get them in W.H. Smith.
Well, I just wondered, yeah, exactly. Can you just sort of, like, get a photocopier and just, how many have we got? How many tickets we sold? We just whack one of these on each seat. What? I don't understand the process.
With the Pete Davidson one, it was they buy a ticket, they get the ticket, and along with the ticket, they get a box to put their phone in, and also a non-disclosure agreement that I assume that I have to bring with them. So, have you got your ID?
That's a really fun night.
Have you got your ID? Have you got your NDA? Have you got your box for your phone in?
You can come and hear some cracking jokes.
I mean, you either have to think that your stuff's going to be shit hot, like really game changing, or dreadful. Like that must be the worst fucking hour that you've ever had to sit through. You've all signed. You can't say it's shit. You can't say it's shit.
But also, the only reason you'd think you'd do that is if you'd heard about like someone else with an equivalent size show or tour where, and after the third night, no one turned up because they'd already heard all of the jokes via Twitter or the reviews. Like, what? How big an impact can any comments make where people are like, yeah, no, I ain't gonna bother.
And the fact, like, if it's already sold out, like, if I'll be honest, one of my absolute dreams would have a sold out tour where everyone's already bought the tickets, but no one turns the fuck up. That would be lovely.
No pressure whatsoever.
Beautiful.
Get your trotters up.
Yeah, they go, I've heard all of this. Oh, no one's turned up. That's why you always want to piss off someone like the fucking EDL or BNP or something, where they go, oh yeah, we're just going to buy all the tickets then. Please.
That'd be really helpful.
Please buy all of the tickets.
We're just going to put the price up, actually.
Yeah. I've just added an extra date. Whoa, we can buy that as well. Oh, cool. Yeah, fantastic. And now it's available on Next Up.
Doing this I'm now doing a residency.
That would be such a good idea.
Spend every night on the slots in Las Vegas. No one comes.
That would be an absolute dream. You get to go up and down the UK. You don't have to worry about. Yeah, exactly. Just what did you do? I did a tour. Was it sold out, mate? How was it? It's actually a stunning country.
Yeah.
It's if you take time to look around, and I had fuck all to do in the evening, so it's fine.
You have no idea just how beautiful Billericay town centre is on a Thursday night.
Let's not start on Essex.
Yeah.
You know.
It's not just an art centre.
I was in Las Vegas for days.
Oh, Basildon, the old club up there.
Well, I'm from Southend originally.
Well, I've heard about Bas Vegas.
Yeah.
I've got a friend who grew up in Basildon. She told me that they knocked it down now or something, or replaced it, but there was a big club there, and it was called
Pink
Bas Vegas.
And there was also the Pink Toothbrush as well.
Yeah. Now that was good in its day. Yeah.
Best part
up there with the Hacienda and the factory or whatever it was called. Studio 74, was it?
The best marketing I've ever heard in my entire life was done in Essex on Essex Radio. And it was called First Class. They did Windows, and to this day I still remember the fucking jingle. That's how good the marketing is. All you need is a proper fucking jingle.
Is this the Baby Shark of its day?
No, because it had all the information that you wanted, like the telephone number.
Let's hear it then. Let's punish ourselves.
First class are the best. Don't you deliberate? Chelmsford 226688. First class are the best. Call them up and you'll see. When you pay for your front, you get your back done free.
Yeah.
I mean that is fucking that is marketing genius. Now you've got fucking people doing tweets on how farts are like Doritos or some shit.
I missed that one.
I mean, it's catchy. I think genius is an overused term, but it's catchy. That was on SXFM.
Yeah, but catchy is all you want. Yeah,
it was on SXFM.
I listened to it.
I'm still on the farts and Doritos, to be honest. I've missed everything.
You have to move on. It was said. It was done. We're on to the next thing. Simple. Done.
Farts and Doritos.
Farts are like Doritos.
He's not even listening. Wait.
What?
You're stuck on it. He didn't hear it. This is where we are.
Is that part of a jingle, or is that?
No, that was just a bit of a rant. For fuck's sake! Oh my god, I can't believe I have to explain.
No, but I want to try and
saying.
work out if farts are like Doritos in any way.
They have that.
I mean, I suppose if you eat a load of Doritos and then fart.
If you're eating Doritos, they're really nice. If someone else is eating them and you don't have them, then the smell can be off-putting. So maybe that's a similarity in that you tend to...
He's reaching for his fucking notepad.
Yeah, I'm thinking about
he's got loads of Dorito notes in there, yeah.
He's got his whole Dorito material lined up.
I should do
Dorito
Doritos
set.
like Pringles, but then it'd be like a Toblerone packet. That would be a nice touch. Should do it for Christmas. Is that genius?
No.
Well,
Right, no, it's not.
it's catchy.
I sense we're getting towards the end of our hour.
Fuck knows. Pete is one who does the timing, and he's getting a drink. Right.
It's 2:03.
Right, so we've got at least like 10 minutes, something like that. No, probably longer. We'll find. It's fine. He's going to be up and fucking telling us. More than 93,000 suspected violent criminals and sex offenders have been released without restrictions by police in England and Wales since 2017. That's according to figures by BBC Newsnight.
And one of them definitely is not the Prime Minister. I think, is this about the lack of funding for police monitoring of people released, or is this something else?
This is going to be. I mean, this was one of those things that go. Oh, this is something brewing. This is going to be a really big deal. It's going to be terrible and everything else. And they talk about this 93,000 because they were done on. These are people who have been released under investigation. So it's the RUIs, which came back in.
Have they been convicted?
No, this is all. These are all under investigation.
Right.
It came in 2017 with the pre-bail when Amber Rudd. So the rules changed in 2017, where pre-charge bail changed. Meaning it was more difficult for police to keep suspects on bail beyond 28 days. So it means that they're still under investigation, but it's not the same as the pre-under bail, because one of the issues in 2017, and the reason it was changed, is because in 2017 you had Operation Unity and all of this, and so you had police holding people under bail for months or years, which was a fundamental thing. And they said, this is awful, this is terrible, we have to change this. They changed it. Now they're coming up with news that 93,000 violent or sexual offended criminals in RUIs instead of the pre-bail, and everyone's going, this is awful.
I mean, was the intention that, first of all, that it would be used this widely, and was the intention that they would not be monitored?
Well, I mean, the first one is, I doubt that in the past 9-10 years, especially when it comes to justice or the Home Secretary, that either the Home Secretary or Justice Secretary has ever thought about how their ideas are actually going to work.
This is true.
And secondly, because what we got is, now we've got 322,000 RUI cases between April 2017 and October 2019. Of them, 93,000 related to violence against a person and sexual offence cases. Now, what it seems to me is they're going to try to say how awful and dreadful this is without saying that the reason that this actually occurred was because we originally thought that the previous thing was awful and terrible, that we had to change that. So we changed it into a way that we now think is fucking dreadful.
Well, in the old system, it was the bail conditions, and so they were constantly under bail conditions.
Yeah, this is no conditions for the RUIs. So it's not saying that you can't...
what sort of bail conditions would they have been under? I mean, did bail... Because obviously the concern here, if I'm right in thinking, is that someone who may have committed... Or let's just say that clearly among this 93,000 or whatever, there will be people who did actually do it.
Yes.
Who did commit violent sexual offences.
Yes.
Right? Now, presumably the concern is that whilst they are RUI, that they may go and offend again. Now, I suppose my question would be this. Under the old system, where they remained under bail conditions, would they have been prevented in practicality,
Yes.
not in law, but in practicality, would they have been prevented from offending again whilst they were on bail?
Well, unlike pre-charge bail, IUIs do not impose a limit on suspects' movements, stop them from contacting certain people, or require them to report to a police station.
I mean, of those, look, I don't know this issue that well, as you can probably tell. So, I can't sit here and give chapter and verse on how things should work. This is secret barrister territory, right?
Yes.
But the thing that I would say is that out of what you've listed, the one that sort of jumps out of me at me is the lack of requirement not to contact people, because that, in a sense, is having a curfew is an onerous term, an onerous condition to live under if it's going on for months and months and months. And of course, you may not have done anything; you have not been convicted of anything. Whereas not being allowed to contact a particular person doesn't seem that onerous condition.
Well, especially if there's someone from this whole investigation is around. How about yourself? Thoughts?
It's a real gear change from Doritos, isn't it?
That would be no.
Keep it moving.
The wrong time to look at the score, if I'm honest.
How's the score?
So there was a lot at 2-1 now.
2-1 to Everton?
Yeah. So
good. I hope your team fucking lose for that.
Well, you said I was allowed to look in the second half, and I chose possibly the wrong time, because the way you'd said about, we've got 10 minutes left, I thought you could be tying it up into some sort of like little festive thing.
Well, no, because I'll do the time. When Pete tells me the time, then I'll fucking do the time, mate.
Are you eyes bad?
We've got 10 now. He told me we've got 10 minutes left.
Oh, Christ. Are you eyes bad? Pre-bail. But that was better, but not perfect in my mind.
See, done, simple.
Back to you in the studio.
We've covered. We've absolutely covered it.
It's a game of two halves.
We're not going to be able to solve anything here. You have
that
to
was a Chris
understand.
Camera laugh there.
So, have we seen any other news?
What I do want to say though with that is that it's because these are very difficult crimes to investigate and to build a sufficiently watertight case for, and we see this with the scandalously low conviction rates for rape, for example.
Yeah.
Now, these investigations, look, they probably wouldn't take so long if the police was and Crown Prosecution Service was properly resourced, but they're still going to take time. Now, it then becomes it's a trade-off. It's a balancing act of the rights of the suspect against the rights of the potential victim. And so, I don't know where the law stands on this. I don't know where the law might stand on this. But as I say again, it just seems to me, from what you're saying, coming to this, completely fresh, the thing, that lack of a limitation on who they can contact, if the person the limit was applied regarding was the purported victim, that just doesn't seem like a particularly onerous trade-off. That seems like a sensible precaution.
Now, with regards to, let's go on to, we'll talk about that, I don't find everything else. With the rights of the suspect, if it's a rape case, something like that, should the suspect's anonymity also be kept?
No.
Your views? Why would you say just no straight off of everything?
The reason why I said it straight off is because this is not a new debate.
Yes.
So I mean, if you go back 8 or 9 years, I might have been more open to it. But this debate has taken place before. So I think that there are strong arguments in favour. There's no question there are strong arguments in favour. But the issues that were always raised against providing anonymity to rape suspects was...
Stop moving your foot, Pete.
Was that...
Thank you very much.
What the hell was going on? Was that, first of all, the naming of a suspect can lead to other witnesses or victims coming forward.
Yes.
Which is very important when trying to build rape cases, because the nature of the crime means that it's difficult to prosecute successfully on the basis of one purported incident. So if you've got other people coming forward saying, backing that up or saying this also happened to me from this person, that's obviously very, very important and very valuable. There's also an argument that says that maintaining anonymity leads victims to feel that they are not being believed. That is an argument that is raised by people who work with rape victims. But certainly I think the issue around finding more, because one of the things that, if I remember rightly, one of the things that does arise with rape and sexual crimes, is that the repeat offending is something that comes up.
Yes.
And repeat offending in a similar way is something that comes up as well. So, as I say, again, this is secret barrister territory. I'm not a lawyer, but
if I got them on, then the amount of effort we'd have to do to hide who the fuck they are, I might as well get Banksy on.
Hide them behind the dirty curtain. But the
it's one hell of a chat-up line.
Come behind my dirty curtain. No, but I think that necessity. I'd say you want to prioritize. Getting as many witnesses as you can, and getting as many people to come forward as you can, in order to be able to prosecute people who've actually done this stuff.
Cool. Are you what?
He doesn't like it, but he doesn't know why.
No, I do. I like it for that reason, because you had to get people to come forward. Where does it sit in the? I'm not secret barrister either, but where does that
That's
sit?
exactly the sort of thing that the secret barrister would say.
So I'm very confused. But where does this sit in, amongst other crimes as well? Is it the same process where you're not allowed to neighbour?
I don't think the only crimes.
Is it?
I think it's only with underage defendants or
Yeah.
under 18 or under 16.
And you can't. You can't write about it when the case is actually going.
Oh, that's across the board. There's contempt of court laws for.
Yeah.
It should be the same for everyone across everything. Because it's how much impact does it actually have on someone if they're accused and then
depends on
it was
the
false?
profile.
And depends on the thing. There's one thing being done for or being suspected of robbing a bank. There's another being suspected for being a fucking mass rapist. Yeah. You get your hair cut differently.
Sure. But then what? Do you have much?
By the way,
knowledge of
Nick,
the
if I ever come
of-
here and you've got a different hairdo, I'm now going to get very suspicious.
It's only one way that hair does go,
mate. I'm losing it. It's only going to go less. If you come here and all of a sudden
And
I've got some form of massive mohawk, then understand I haven't been out raping. I've been out spending a lot of money getting some very weird hair
extensions.
No, I'd have robbed a bank. So no, I was just wondering, if. Obviously, there have been instances where people have been falsely accused, but
yes.
I don't know if there has been
Has
the impact on those people that have been falsely accused been as large?
Look, in the short run, it's going to be horrendous, and you may lose your job or be suspended from work without pay potentially, and all this sort of thing. And you're going to be judged by people who know you. This sort of thing. I mean, the worst cases, I think, tend to revolve around heavy levels of media coverage. Mm-hmm. We saw this with the the Operation Midland and Carl Beach.
Oh yeah,
and it became
that was
became
fucking
a free for all.
Mental.
Became a free for all.
Part
of what happened there. Part of what happened there though was that I think the media was overcompensating for its previous failures having been exposed.
Exactly.
So I think that was part of what drove that, and Tom Watson and everyone was trying to get on the right side of history. Stop trying to get on the right side of history. Just do the right fucking thing.
And it turns out he was a paedophile all along.
Plot twist.
It's like a fucking
takes one to not know one.
It's the M. Night Shyamalan of pedo cases. What a twist. Right.
Moving on.
God. Have we got any
this is so not going on my Twitter.
Any final thoughts? Well, I'm gonna be tagging you in anyway, mate. Any final thoughts?
On anything?
Anything you like, very quickly, because we're running out of time.
It's been very lovely to be here whilst you interview your friend, and it's got me out of the house, which is nice. I think Everton are still winning. But yeah, it's been nice to see everyone. I would in future. I'd probably suggest that audience member maybe could replenish a drink if they see it's going, considering people are giving their time.
Are you suggesting that I haven't given you enough attention?
No, you give. It's been good for me because that's the point.
This.
I don't watch any of the TV or read anything during the week.
That's
so this is good for me.
I'm
sorry. I get it all here.
You are the perfect guest for a news review
and I'm going to put a really well measured
tweet.
I didn't back myself. No. Is this the plugging bit yet?
No, not yet.
Oh, what? This is just final
thoughts?
I really need to sort of watch this back to work out if this is a career ender or not. But no, I am confident.
Not for you, lad. Don't worry.
No, it's not for me because I don't have a career. So I'm a freelancer, just glorified unemployed.
I mean,
still isn't.
I stick to the majority of what I've said today. Maybe all of it. I don't know. I can't remember it all.
Oh no, I don't feel that I've said anything bad or wrong. It's just that I'm sure I'll be judged for it. I can't afford that level of judgment. I'm in the London private rented sector.
Fuck 'em, mate. Fuck 'em. Anything to plug?
I think
You're
I'm going to be
the
starting at... Oh, that's a camera. Jesus Christ. I think might be starting a night here, which is the Castle in Commercial Road next year. So you can get a gig. Just one, though. Can't put you back on. Maybe I'll give you your second encore.
Yourself, anything to plug?
Just my butt.
Fantastic. I mean, no, that's how you end a career. That is, and for myself, next up have been kind enough to pick up this year's show, so that will be coming out once I've signed all the documents, probably in a few weeks or months. So that was for fuck you and fuck your beliefs. So get on to next up. You can watch my previous show on there as well. So I want to thank my guests and goodbye. Done.